और आइए सीधे लिए चलते हैं आपको विदेश मंत्रालय की प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में।
Hi, sir. Rishabh from Times Now. So, two things. First, the Canadian
This is the regular one.
The Canadian Prime Minister has said that India is wrong. We are taking all appropriate action against any violence or terrorism. We are not taking it lightly. This after he was asked that India is upset over the tableau on Indira Gandhi's assassination as well as threat to Indian diplomats.
Noted. Thank you. You had a question? I didn't realize. Next. What is it? You have a question? I don't know what your question is.
Basically, the Prime Minister is saying that no.
I know. I read that. But what?
So what is India's stand on it?
Stand on what?
On Canada's action against anti-India activities there.
Okay. Okay. Start with Aisha.
Sir, Ayush Iqbal from ANI. Just adding on that, when asked on Khalistani extremism, Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau has also said that we have taken strict action against terrorism. May we know if Canada has apprised us of what actions they have taken so far, any arrests being made or individuals being prosecuted?
Look, I think there seems to be a lot of interest in this. So let me focus on this and take all the questions related to that. It might be easier. Okay. Kalol, go ahead. I think this just...
Kallol Bhattacharjee from The Hindu.
Yeah.
Sir, we have seen that you have summoned the Canadian High Commissioner after the incident there. But why haven't you summoned the US Ambassador despite the fire incident in the consulate in San Francisco, number one? And secondly, do you think that the Canadian...
Why not the question for the other two or other three countries?
Exactly. So therefore...
No, why your question is only specific to the
I'm
US. Why are you specific?
Let me complete, please. So I'm just saying that
The question
is the threat...
I'm happy to answer a question, but it should be something related
Yeah,
to...
okay, I'm saying that is the threat in the Canadian context greater or more severe that you are summoning the Canadian High Commissioner but not the US Ambassador?
Yeah. Okay. Related to this whole issue, yeah, Reza.
Raza from the Hindustan Times. My question was, related to the rally that is being planned in London on July 8th. Are we in touch with the UK authorities? I mean, the UK Foreign Minister has given a statement, but what are we doing about this, and how serious is this threat from this rally?
Okay. Anybody else on this whole issue? Yeah, Manush.
This is Manas from PTI Press Trust of India. I mean, we have been seeing, increasing threats to our missions in these countries, Australia, Canada, UK, as well as US is the latest to join it. How do we see the overall threat to our missions in these countries, and what is the message to these countries that we have conveyed, and then how we are trying to protect our diplomats and our missions in these countries?
Okay, I saw one more hand. No. Okay. Hopefully that's the last of it, because I know there's interest is an important issue. Let me try to answer some parts of it and some general comments. Look, the Canada one specifically, because I think there was reports of, that's where it started off. There is a rally on the so-called rally on the 8th. First and foremost, there are two separate elements. You would have seen posters inciting violence against Indian diplomats. I think, Manas, you were referring to that. What do we do? What is our overall sense? Look, our sense is that these posters inciting violence against our diplomats and our diplomatic premises are abroad are unacceptable, and we condemn them in the strongest terms. With respect to Canada, the matter has been strongly taken up with the Canadian authorities, both in New Delhi and in Ottawa. We have called on the Government of Canada to take all steps to ensure the safety of our diplomats and security of our diplomatic missions in Canada. It is a matter of concern that freedom of expression and speech is once again being misused by anti-India elements based in Canada and elsewhere. And we continue to press the Canadian side to ensure that our diplomats can carry out their normal functions without fear or intimidation. We have seen some comments, at least the media reports about comments by Prime Minister Trudeau. But let me make the larger point that the issue is not about freedom of expression, but its misuse for advocating violence, for propagating separatism, and for legitimizing terrorism. So that's actually what we would like to emphasize. We have also had instances or situations where these kind of threats have also taken place, be it the US, Australia, and the UK, to name a few. You would have seen External Affairs Minister himself mention in the context of, I think, Prime Minister Trudeau's comments that External Affairs Minister strongly believes that countries should not pander to vote bank politics. We have seen comments by UK Foreign Secretary. I think that comment somebody asked specifically about UK. As you are aware, we've had problems with the security of our mission in London. We have taken up this latest issue of threats against our diplomats with the UK authorities. We have noted these comments by UK Foreign Secretary, but we would naturally judge them by what happens on the ground. In the name of freedom of expression, we should not be giving space to those who advocate violence or, as I said, propagate separatism or legitimize terrorism. We have noted posters circulating in other countries also, as I mentioned. In the US specifically, we are in touch with all these countries, and the US specifically, and I think some of you mentioned, there was an arson attempt by extremist elements at the Indian consulate in San Francisco on the morning of July 2nd. It was quickly brought under control by local authorities. We again strongly condemn such attacks against Indian diplomatic premises abroad. And as I mentioned, we have taken up the matter with the US side. The US administration has responded promptly at very senior levels. I would, in fact, draw your attention to the statement of the US State Department, I think it was, strongly condemning the vandalism and attempted arson and terming such acts as criminal offenses. Let me make a larger point. The safety of our diplomats and security of our missions is of utmost priority to the government. As regards what measures are being taken, I would not like to comment on specific security elements, but certainly our missions and consulates, particularly in the US, as well as other places, are in touch with the local authorities about requisite security measures and what we expect can be done to ensure that there is no threat to the diplomats and that instances of vandalism or attacks on our premises do not take place, particularly under the guise of rallies under freedom of expression, which effectively only serve to incite violence. I think that broadly covers all the situation that I have. I don't have any assessment as to whether a rally in London, I think Reza asked, how serious is it? But yes, if there are attacks or threats against our diplomats, our premises, which actually is there right in those posters, we take them very seriously, and we have been taking up the matter. We would expect to see action by host authorities against it. I didn't memorize the text, so Hindi as well, I don't know. What is your question? आप हिंदी में पूछिए, मैं जवाब देने की कोशिश करूँगा. मैंने ऐसा कोई स्पेसिफिक कोई स्टेटमेंट तो मेरी थी नहीं.
सर, शैलेंद्र वांगू न्यूज़ 18 से
जी.
आपने देखा होगा कि जिस तरह से भारतीय राजनयिकों की तस्वीरें जारी की जा रही हैं, 3-4 देशों में हमने देखा है खालिस्तान समर्थक इस तरह के पोस्टर जारी कर रहे हैं. तो ऐसे में हमने उन देशों से किस तरह से इस मुद्दे को उठाया?
जैसा मैं अंग्रेजी में कह रहा था, ये पोस्टर्स का जो मुद्दा है बहुत सीरियस है, जिसमें हमारे डिप्लोमेट्स और हमारे एम्बसीज और कॉन्सुलेट के खिलाफ उनको वायलेंस का इंसाइट किया जा रहा है, उनको धमकी दी जा रही हैं. हमने सब सरकारों से, आपने चारों का नाम लिया, उनसे ये मुद्दे पे बात की है. कुछ जगह में कुछ इमीडिएट रिएक्शन हुए हैं, कुछ जगह में हम अपेक्षा करते हैं कुछ और या कोई रिस्पॉन्स आए. जैसा मैंने कहा कि एक अटैक भी हुआ था और आर्सन अटेम्प्ट भी हुआ था हमारी कॉन्सुलेट सैन फ्रांसिस्को में. वहाँ यूएस एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ने काफ़ी हाई लेवल पे भी उसमें रिस्पॉन्ड किया है और उसमें एक्शन हो रहा है. हमने कनाडा के साथ भी इस मुद्दे को उठाया है और हमने स्टेटमेंट्स भी देखे हैं अभी प्रधानमंत्री ट्रूडो से. पर मुद्दा फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन का नहीं है, मुद्दा है कि इसका मिसयूज़ हो रहा है, इसमें आतंकवादी तत्वों को मौका दिया जा रहा है, इन पे अलगाववादी तत्वों को मौका दिया जा रहा है, या आतंकवाद को जो फैलाते हैं उनको सब समर्थन या मिल रहा है या मौका मिल रहा है. और हम चाहेंगे कि वो, और यूके में भी हमने उधर भी हमारे यूके फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी का स्टेटमेंट देखा है, हम जानना चाहेंगे कि एक्चुअल सिचुएशन क्या हो रहा है और क्या वो एक्शन लेंगे, क्योंकि वहाँ पे पहले भी ऐसे एक इंसिडेंट हो चुका है और हम इस पर हम बहुत सीरियसली लेते हैं ऐसे अटैक्स या थ्रेट्स, और इसमें हम जो भी कार्रवाई करना है हम करते रहेंगे। और सिक्योरिटी के स्पेसिफिक मामलों पे मैं कहना नहीं चाहूँगा कुछ और, पर हम हमारी कॉन्सुलेट्स और एम्बेसी नज़र बनाए हैं, कांटेक्ट है लोकल अथॉरिटीज़ के साथ कि जो भी मेजर्स लिए जाने ज़रूरी हैं उसमें हम किस तरह से उनके साथ बात करके ये मेजर्स लगाए जा सकें। ओके, मूविंग ऑन टू अदर टॉपिक्स प्लीज। सिद्धांत, गो अहेड।
So my question is, Taiwan is opening its office.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Siddharth from Beyond, my question is, Taiwan is opening its center, its office in Mumbai. How do you see this development? Was there any conversation between the two sides when it comes to opening of this office?
Okay. Yeah.
So Meghna Dev from DD News. A diplomatic advisor to the French president is in India, and he has met the national security advisor as well. This comes ahead of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to France. Can you tell us more on anything on the discussions and who else is he meeting?
Who else is he meeting? Okay. No. Okay, a related question I'll take. Okay, Srinjay first, then I'll come to you.
So the Indian Times Now, the Indian ambassador to Paris is also here. He's also here for discussions regarding the visit.
Okay.
So if you could tell us a little on what are the issues that we are looking at on the 14th.
Okay, fair enough. Ileana.
Good afternoon, TASS News Agency, Elena. My first question is on Black Sea Grain Initiative deal. Does India follow the developments on this deal? How important is it for India? And do you have any plans mediate on this issue? Mediate, like something like this.
Okay.
Yes, interfere. I don't like the word interfere.
No, interfere is the wrong word.
Yes.
Mediate.
Mediate.
Okay.
So, and on 30th of June, our leaders, Mr. Modi and Mr. Putin, had a telephone conversation. And we all, of course, saw your press release on it. And it also read like both leaders agreed to remain in touch. In what touch? Any plans of visit to Moscow, of course by Modi, or
sure.
other Indian high-level officials?
Fair enough.
Thank you.
You had a question, yeah. Sure.
Yeshi Seli from the New Indian Express. It's been close to 11 months since those 8 naval veterans have been under solitary confinement. What are the charges? What are they going through? Are they still under solitary confinement? Have they been moved to jail? What are they going through?
They are in jail.
They are in jail. Okay.
I'll come answer. Yeah. Okay, let me try to answer this sort of question. Siddhant, on your specific questions I think this was the third office that you were referring to. Look, normally, okay, let me put it to you from this perspective. Our policy on Taiwan is clear and consistent. Government facilitates and promotes interactions in areas of trade, investment, tourism, culture, education, and other such people-to-people contacts and exchanges. The opening of the Taipei Economic and Cultural Center in Mumbai that you referred to should be seen in that context. Of course, we are aware of this development. Meghna, Srinja, your queries were regarding France. Yes, the diplomatic advisor of France is here, but the visit is ongoing. He met his principal interlocutor has been actually NSA, and the conversation happened today morning. I am not in a position to share more on it right now as the visit is still unfolding. We will try to get you more updates. This does come, I notice you mentioned our ambassador is here, but that I don't think is a matter of foreign policy. But in terms of the importance of the visit that's coming up, this is an importance. We have announced this visit. Prime Minister would be the chief guest at the Bastille Day celebrations. There are a number of issues that are on the agenda generally, and you hopefully will be able to share more with you closer to the date. And as usual, we'll try to do a briefing on all the issues related to that visit immediately prior to that Prime Minister's departure. So please bear with us. We'll share with you more details as we go along. Ileana, look, you asking the same question I answered some months ago, in fact, on the Black Sea Ukraine initiative. I don't think I'm looking at it specifically in the context of that initiative, but a larger issue of ensuring that in the context of the conflict in Ukraine, that we are able to ensure food security for developing countries in particular, and that grain is able to go to the countries where it is supposed to. I understand there were some renewals of that initiative. I don't have exact details of what is the status of that initiative now. We are not directly part of that discussions, but as I said, we have always been supportive of the need to look at the food security requirements of the developing world, particularly in the context of disruptions caused by the conflict in Ukraine. I do not understand what you mean by mediate. We are not part of those discussions, but on the larger issue of the conflict, we have always said that if there's something we can do, we'll do whatever we can to ensure peaceful resolution, and Prime Minister said that repeatedly. I don't have anything further to add to that. As regards your query of the conversation between Prime Minister and President Putin on 30th June, you're correct, we have issued a press release. There have been regular contacts, and I think that's what they meant, to remain in touch. I don't have yet any information to share about any physical visits. We would, I think, hope to see President Putin at the G20 Leaders Summit in September, but whether there's a separate visit or not, I don't have anything particular to share at this moment. Yeshi, regarding your query again, this has been a topic that we have been following closely. As I think we mentioned, as you're aware, the case is in what is called the Court of First Instance, and so far 4 hearings have taken place. The last hearing was on 21st of June, and the next hearing, I think, is later this month, 19th of July, if I remember correctly. We attach high priority to the case, and our embassy in Qatar is, of course, closely following it. The full nature of the charges is not entirely clear. I know that the legal process is underway. We are ensuring that our nationals are receiving the required legal services. Meanwhile, the family members, the detainees, continue to receive weekly phone calls and meetings. They are being updated with the proceedings of the case on a regular basis, and we are trying to extend all possible support, consular and otherwise, to them, and we will continue to share with you updates as the case progresses. Yeah, please.
Hi, sir. Akshay Dogre from India Today. Sir, outside the United Nations headquarters in New York, Guru Padwan Singh Pannu has issued a fresh video statement threatening India and saying that there will be a Khalistani referendum held in 2 places in Canada, one in Martin, Canada in July, and second in September out in Vancouver. So again, a threatening video coming from a Khalistani element. Will the Indian government take this matter up with the Canadian authorities?
Okay. Yeah.
So a related question.
Related to this one? No,
yes,
something
sir,
else.
the
Oh,
same
go ahead.
issue.
Okay.
For the last 1 year or so, we have seen an upsurge in such events, especially in the Western countries.
You didn't introduce yourself, but
Sridhar from the Asian Aid, sir,
thank
sorry.
you.
So we have seen an upsurge in such incidents, and we have seen that our reaction has been to virtually plead with these host governments, I mean, for security, and in a way it makes us look vulnerable. So is there time approaching when we have to sort of arrange for the security, we send our forces there, or arrange for security of our own missions there, or has anything been done in this context? Have we taken it up with these countries?
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Megha from Newsax, and my question is, in the recent months, there have been a lot of visits that have been made by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the External Affairs Minister, whether it's Fiji, Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands. Now, this is reportedly...
This is the Prime Minister's visit you're talking about, or the External Affairs Minister?
The Prime Minister's visit to Papua New Guinea. There have been other
Yeah, I know the visits, yeah.
Yeah. So, my question is, what are the kind of investments, MOUs, or other associations we are looking at with these nations? Is this also to counter the growing influence of China in these regions?
Any other question? If not, okay, you had a few. Okay, go ahead.
Sir, my question is related to Akshay. He asked about this Pannu's latest statement. My point is that the latest video that he has said that has been apparently in front of United Nations building. His organization SFJ, I believe, has been prohibited. And when we say that these elements should be banned or there should be some action by the respective countries, have we escalated the issue of Pannu time and again releasing anti-Indian sentiment and trying to lead the Khalistani movement from US to other countries as well with the US authorities.
You didn't introduce yourself, did you?
I'm Abhishek from CNN News 18.
Just for record, my poor person doing the transcription gets crazy about it. Go ahead.
सर मधुरेंद्र न्यूज़ नेशन से कुछ मीडिया रिपोर्ट्स के मुताबिक ये जानकारी मिल रही है कि ब्रिक्स के विस्तार को चीन चाहता है और चाहता है कि ब्रिक्स में
चीन चाहता है
कि ब्रिक्स का विस्तार हो और कुछ सदस्य देशों को उसमें जोड़ा जाए, जिसका भारत विरोध कर रहा है।
आपको अंदर की खबर बहुत
तो क्या पूरा मसला क्या है और भारत का विरोध क्या है, अगर आप बता।
आपने कह दिया पूरा मसला। Okay, I'll try to answer that one. Okay. If there are more questions, your second question. Now, look, okay. Quick one, if it's something. Okay.
Manas from PTA, when you said, in fact, extremist and terrorist elements must not be given space in the name of freedom of speech.
Expression.
Are you only referring to Canada, or in fact it includes US, UK, Australia as well?
Okay, thank you. Look, Akshay or I think Abhishek, your query was also on the issue. I haven't seen this particular video, I must confess. We are aware of it, but I haven't seen it. First of all, I don't think taking a video in front of the UN building lends it any greater legitimacy. So I would like to remove that element. So what? It's probably on the streets of New York. Or I don't even know where it is. I'm presuming. As I mentioned in our initial set of questions, we have been consistently and regularly taking up cases of threats, etc., with the Canadian authorities for and others. The so-called referendum, our views on this. I think we have made it very clear repeatedly how we think of these, and this is not the first time. There seems to be doing it regular basis just to keep the issue alive, and I think our views have been very clear. I don't probably need to reiterate that. But yes, you talked about being a SFG as a proscribed entity. Yes, it is a proscribed entity. We have been taking it up with our partner countries to ensure that their activities are proscribed. And that their threats, etc., they are unable to make that. This is a conversation that is ongoing, and depending on what specific actions happen, the host authorities do take action, or at least we take it up with them on a regular basis. Sorry, you wanted a follow-up on that, Abhishek? No. Okay. Without a microphone.
You talked about Canada. Have you raised the issue of Pannu being, scot-free in USA and
look,
doing all that?
As I said, I don't want to go into a legal process of wherever this kind of threats are made. We do take it up with the local authorities. You mentioned Canada. Akshay mentioned specifically Canada and Vancouver, so I'm referring to Canada in that respect. But we have taken up wherever these threats emanate from or are made in respect of. Madhur, who asked the question? Upsurge? Yeah, Sridhar. Sridhar, I disagree with almost everything you said. Okay, please understand that under the Vienna Convention, as per diplomatic practice, the responsibility of providing protection is to the host governments. That's what we do with all diplomats and other international organizations that are based out of India, and we expect that the host governments do the same. Commensurate with the threat perception as well as other inputs that they get. There is no question of pleading or being vulnerable. We also have other security measures that are taken, including necessary security measures from our own side. But I would not like to discuss what specific security measures we are taking for obvious reasons. But let me emphasize that this is primarily a responsibility that we expect that host governments will discharge as per their obligations under the Vienna Conventions, and that we are reminding them of what they need to do, and also bringing to their attention specific instances which might come to our attention. Megha, your question is one of those PhD theses. I will try to answer it in a very simple way. This year, actually, Prime Minister, as you know, has gone to various places. He had a 3-country tour that took him to Japan, Papua New Guinea, and Australia. He has just recently done a visit, a very successful visit to the US. On the way back, he stopped. Also did a state visit to Egypt. In fact, there haven't been too many from the Prime Minister's side, but the External Affairs Minister has also been traveling. I'm not sure all visits, I would like to categorize them as related to China in any which way. We have each visit, has a certain context, has a certain objectives, and a certain follow-up mechanisms that happen. You mentioned investments. I don't know what you meant by investments, as in our investment, or just an investment of time and effort. I wasn't sure. But I think these are multifaceted visits. Specifically, when we talk about Papua New Guinea, you mentioned, I think it's a great opportunity to reach out to the Pacific Island countries, and this is the first time an Indian Prime Minister actually was there. I happened to have an opportunity to see it, the impact personally. I think it is something that will have a good response and impact as we go along in strengthening our relations, not just with Papua New Guinea, but with other countries. With Fiji, for example, we had the World Hindi Conference earlier this year. So there are multiple elements of every visit, and also the benefits through both countries that accrue from such activities. I don't know what you mean by specifically countering Chinese influence. Our relationships stand on their own with each of these countries, and we would certainly like to strengthen and deepen them. Madhurendra ji, आपका प्रश्न था, नहीं, somebody before Canada, you had the same question. Manas, I answered your question. Yeah. मधुरेंद्र जी, आपका प्रश्न था ब्रिक्स के विस्तार के बारे में, ब्रिक्स एक्सपेंशन के बारे में. कहाँ गए मधुरेंद्र जी? मधुरेंद्र, वेरी सिटिंग. ओह, अपॉलॉजीज. देखिए, इस बारे में आई थिंक फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी ने भी इसका जवाब दिया था, एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर ने भी आई थिंक उनके प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में जवाब दिया था. ब्रिक्स को लेके, ब्रिक्स के जो सदस्य हैं, उन्होंने पिछले समिट में एक डिसीजन लिया था कि इसको देखने के लिए इसके क्राइटेरिया देखना चाहिए, इसके क्या हमारे वर्किंग मेथड्स हैं और किस तरह से हमें एक्सपेंशन के मेंबरशिप क्राइटेरिया वगैरह देख के फिर हम कह सकते हैं इसके बारे में. यही हमारा अभी पोजीशन है, ये हमारे समिट में रिफ्लेक्ट करता है उनके डिक्लेरेशन में, और अगले ब्रिक्स समिट में इस पर और चर्चा होगी कि किस तरह से क्या क्या क्राइटेरिया या ऑब्जेक्टिव्स हैं जिसके बेसिस पे हम नए मेंबर्स या नए सदस्य के बारे में बात करें. मुझे याद है एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर डॉक्टर जयशंकर ने जवाब दिया था कि हम इसको पॉजिटिव दृष्टि से देख रहे हैं, पर इसमें ये जो मैकेनिज्म्स हैं या प्रोसेस और प्रोसीजर्स हैं, इसको पूरा करना पड़ेगा. तो आपने जो कहा कि कुछ लोग सपोर्ट करते हैं और हम अपोज करते हैं, ऐसा ये आपका स्पेकुलेशन है, मैं इसमें आपके साथ सहमत नहीं हो पाऊंगा. Okay, I think we'll close with that. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining this presser. Sorry, something more? Okay, quick. Look, I normally take one question, but if you have something interesting.
Reza from Hindustan Times. There are some reports that the Permanent Court of Arbitration has ruled that it has the competence to take up this case on Kishan Ganga and Ratle. India hasn't joined the proceedings, but if you have anything on that.
Okay. More questions. This is a free for all. Okay. Tell me.
Kalol from the Hindu.
Yeah.
There are reports that the US ambassador in a press conference today has said that the developments in Manipur are concerning him. And
concerning him?
Yeah, it concerns him in the sense that he is worried about that development. Okay. And then that the peace is essential for economic development and other advances in society. So I was wondering, would there be a response from you about if he has really gone beyond a particular line? Because do you think it's a domestic?
Thank you for making my life easier.
Yeah,
you said if
asking a question.
Okay.
Rishabh again from Times Now. So the US the representative on Indo-Pacific has said that US and India both have their own issues, and US have no rights to lecture any country when it comes to human rights and democracy.
Sorry, repeat again, what?
So, I'll just read the quote again.
From whom?
विदेश मंत्रालय की हर हफ्ते होने वाली प्रेस वार्ता को संबोधित करते हुए विदेश मंत्रालय के प्रवक्ता अरिंदम बागची ने पूछे गए सवालों के जवाब में कहा कि कनाडा में भारत के राजनयिक के खिलाफ पोस्टर अस्वीकार्य है. कनाडा में भारत के राजनयिकों की सुरक्षा सुनिश्चित करने के मुद्दे को भी कनाडा के समक्ष उठाया गया. वहीं राजनयिकों और दूतावास के खिलाफ हिंसा से जुड़े पोस्टरों की भारत ने कड़ी निंदा की है. मुद्दा अलगाववाद को बढ़ावा देने का है और आतंकवाद को न्यायसंगत बनाने का है, अरिंदम बागची ने कहा. अरिंदम बागची ने कहा कि भारत के दूतावासों और राजनयिकों के खिलाफ हिंसा